TopMedTalk.
Hi, I'm Desiree Chappell. Welcome to TopMedTalk's special series, Women in Anesthesia. Inspired by the British Journal of Anesthesia's recent focus on the topic and their special section in the March 2020 edition. Now, you can find all of these links in our show notes. Here at TopMedTalk, we've had no issue picking out contributors who are intelligent, powerful, and important scientists with a female voice. To celebrate this, we've lined up a series of podcasts where major issues in healthcare, specifically anesthesia and perioperative medicine, are being identified and tackled by women. Now, last summer, we attended the Prato Collaborative Clinical Trials in Anesthesia 2019 meeting. It was hosted by Monash University. The meeting included a special BJA symposium for women in anesthesia. And during our visit, we had the opportunity to have more discussion with some of these prominent women about the topic of gender diversity to see if it's really an issue in our profession. So why did we do this? Well, with the release of the BJA series this spring, we really wanted to contribute to the greater conversation. Now, we did catch up with one of our regular contributors, Professor Ramani Munasinger. She's the director of the UK National Institute of Academic Anesthesia Health Services Research Centre. And in Prato, we spoke with her about this issue and how it's recently come into focus.
So it was an afternoon that was organised by Paul Miles with support from the BJA to focus on issues around supporting women who want to be involved in anaesthesia research. And I have a feeling, although I haven't confirmed this with Paul, that the beginning of this might have come from Prato 2 years ago. Ironically, I wasn't able to come to that meeting. I pulled out at the last minute because I was just about with my husband to adopt our children. And so I had to stay home. But I got a text from Tim Cook, who was at that meeting, who leads the National Audit projects in the UK. He was listening to a presentation from Jocelyn Clark, who was the deputy editor of The Lancet, talking about women in science. And he said, there's 8 women here and there's 100 people in the room. And we're missing you, kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure that Paul and others will have recognised that as well and kind of realised, because it's very easy to be oblivious to these types of issues. I think, to be honest with you, I have been for quite a long time. But when you look around you and see that there is such disparity in even just attendees at this kind of top-level meeting, which is about celebrating kind of world leaders in research, and you kind of think, well, why are there so few women here? So that symposium was about trying to start to discuss some of the problems that might lead to that end result and start to address them. So one of the things that was great about it is we got a really international perspective. So I talked about some stuff from the UK perspective, as did Helen Galley, who's an anaesthesia scientist based in Aberdeen in the United Kingdom. But we also heard from Australia and from the US and from Europe. Some of the things that we discussed were around the opportunity gap and the attainment gap for women, and not just women, but also lots of other
diverse minorities.
And I'm very keen that when we have these discussions that we don't think just about women versus men, because it's not like that. We need to think about equality and diversity and inclusion full stop.
So we also talked about how the gender balance in anesthesia specifically looks in comparison to other professions. And Rami took a really great approach. She took an evidence-based approach, and this is what she found.
My talk, when I was researching it, made me look at data that are out there about the proportion of women in the medical workforce in the UK, in the anaesthesia workforce in particular. I was quite surprised to see that, because I always assumed that anaesthesia was quite a feminised specialty, but actually it's not the case. 60% of anaesthetists are men. And then looking at the balance of men and women in academic positions across the board and in anaesthesia. And what was interesting to me was that the problem is not unique to anaesthesia. Anaesthesia has historically had fewer academics proportionately than lots of other hospital specialties, but the split between men and women is no different to other specialties. So that, in many respects, gives me hope that there are solutions that can be applied across the board in healthcare and healthcare research that will address this. But I suppose the other thing that it really made me think about is that we can't try and find solutions to this issue in isolation, either as anaesthetists or as academics. This is a societal thing, So simple things like, for example, a few years ago, the government said, the UK government said that parental leave can be split between both parents if there are 2 parents. But only 2% of UK couples take up that opportunity. And so it's there, but for whatever reason, there's still the imbalance. And so until we give men the opportunity, frankly, to spend more time with their kids and take that time out, if that's the way that your life is going, for example, which I would hope is advantageous to men as well as to women in terms of career progression and just work-life balance and all those things, then it's going to be very, very hard to address any issues within the confines of a single hospital specialty or a university system or academic medicine, full stop.
So I wanted to listen to Ramani also talk about the Scientific Women's Academic Network, or the Athena SWAN Charter in the UK. So let's hear from her and see what she had to say about that.
So the Athena SWAN initiative, just in case people don't know, is around trying to bring gender equity to the university system, essentially, and provide an environment that is fair to both men and women. And there are metrics that universities have to provide in order to demonstrate that they are paying attention to this issue.
And you get graded.
And it's got real teeth now because...
Bronze, silver, gold, I don't know if it goes to platinum, but there's...
Bronze, silver, gold, and it's got teeth now because the big funding body in the UK, the biggest sort of clinical research funding body in the UK, the NIHR, will not give programme funding to institutions who have less than a silver award.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of got... And actually that's hit my own institution recently because we've only got a bronze in my division. So track... fellowships like academic clinical fellowships and clinical lecturer posts we're not allowed to apply for now. So it kind of has got real teeth.
Now, in the following weeks, we'll hear from some of these amazing female guests we've had on the show and about the brilliant work that they're contributing to our field. We're going to start with Ramani's fuller conversation next week with the release of the first of our series. The week after that, we're going to listen to our conversation we had at the Perioperative Medicine Summit in 2019 with Professor Angela Bader, who's the Vice Chair of Perioperative Medicine at Brigham and Women's Hospital. Dr. Angela Bader.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I think this is a wonderful idea. Right now, I'm the Vice Chair for Perioperative Medicine. I transitioned in January.
Okay. And you're at Brigham.
I'm at Brigham, right, exactly.
Brigham. Okay.
That's a great title. Run that one by us again.
I know.
Which one?
Vice President.
No, Vice Chair. Vice Chair. So we are called the Department of Anesthesiology, Perioperative Medicine, and Pain.
Yeah.
And we have made that change specifically because of an interest in perioperative medicine. So I am now the Vice Chair of Perioperative Medicine. So with that change comes a focus on a little more broader view rather than being stuck in the weeds of the day-to-day preventing cancellations and, the patient issues and scheduling. So we're trying to take a little broader view. So, for example, Mass General Hospital is called the Department of Anesthesia and Critical Care, and I think that sort of emphasizes the difference in focus of the institutions.
Yeah.
So this is really, we're trying to head into a new direction.
Yeah, so the broader population health, health kind of stuff, or that broad?
So we actually are very focused on population management, or this is what we are trying to do. I'm hoping, with ERAS and the bundle for ERAS, that this will be a similar thing, and as CMS is doing it, we can sort of tweak the bundle, and people will learn you have to do the bundle. It's not just pick a piece here and a piece there. And I look at it, in fact, that's what I discussed at the American College of Surgeons. I'm really hoping that a geriatric type bundle will be similar to ERAS, hopefully in the future. We did some research. Surprisingly, it was the first time somebody actually looked at a preoperative population above age 65 and did standard mini-cog evaluations. And what we found, which was actually published in Anesthesiology, if anyone's interested, 2 publications.
Okay.
The first one showed that overall there's a 29% incidence of previously undiagnosed cognitive dysfunction. That's huge.
Yeah.
And if you were above age 75, it was 40%.
Wow.
And this is eliminating people that had a diagnosis already. So I feel like we've turned over a rock, and now what are we going to do with the results? And then we did a follow-up study which showed that people with previously unidentified abnormal cognitive stratification have longer lengths of stay. More of them go to a facility instead of home, and they have more complications. So it matters.
At the end of the month, we'll hear from Carolyn Johnston. She's a consultant anaesthetist in St. George's Hospital in London. And she's going to tell us about NELA, the National Emergency Laparotomy Audit, which she's done a ton of work with in the UK.
So NELA is the National Emergency Laparotomy Audit. So it's a national audit collecting data from emergency laparotomy patients in the UK. We cross-check it against the national data set. So we collect 85 to 90% of all laparotomies done in the UK. We have an extended data set related process and outcome measures, including up to 90-day mortality for all of those patients. And I think what sets this aside as what I would hope is a helpful audit is that data is immediately available to local clinicians. So they have their dashboards of process measures, and they have access to all of their own data immediately, as well as it, going in the big old national report that comes out 18 months after the data is collected. It's available in real time for clinicians to use. So QI is a very big part of what we do. I think you have to be quite clever to make the time and space and resources for it. And that's not to say I've been clever and I've solved it, but that's to say that I've had to look hard at our data and think, well, where can I bring most value to what the hospital wants me to do with it? So I look at, for example, sepsis, and I say, oh, good, the hospital's pretty focused on sepsis, and so is the ED. Maybe I can tack on my emergency laparotomy patients to an ongoing piece of work, and thereby, potentiate the amount of interest and the amount of activity I can get out of that. Similarly, talking to our managers about our length of stay. So for me, emergency laparotomy mean length of stay of 21 days is, a acute medical inpatient stays in hospital for about 5 days, and there's a whole team of people working on medical inpatient flow. And so I go to my managers and I say, did you know that our patients are staying in hospital for 21 days average? Then I can get them to take me seriously and work with me.
So I want to thank all of our phenomenal contributors we've had on TopMedTalk. It's been such a pleasure and an honor for you to share your stories. And thank you for listening. Now be sure to catch us on TopMedTalk.com or on our app, which you can find in any app store. You can also follow us on your favorite social media platform. We're on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Thanks for listening. Cheers.
TopMedTalk.